So the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra were passed down through different yugas, even to this very yuga of Kali Yuga where we are right now. So many yugas, after Lord Ramachandra had actually appeared, Treta Yuga, Satya Yuga, and then we find ourselves in Kali Yuga, where these pastimes have still been made known. And I think we would all agree that the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra seem to be, internationally known. If we consider the fact that Diwali, for instance, this festival of Diwali, the festival of lights, somehow or another is known by all races, all countries. It's observed around the world, and it's known as a preeminent festival of the year. And other festivals such as Sri Krishna Janmashtami, although it is the appearance day of Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, may not be known as widely. The significance of the day is not known as widely as the event of Diwali, where schools even offer a day's holiday on that particular day. And yet we know that that particular day, Diwali, signifies the return of Lord Ram from his exile after he had actually vanquished the demon Ravana. So these pastimes of Lord Ramachandra have been repeatedly recited and shared over yugas, let alone centuries, and even, widely itself. So the Srimad Bhagavatam, which we are reading off from today, and I think if I could just take the point a bit further, having heard His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami Maharaj yesterday emphasizing as well that in Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Srimad Bhagavatam is the book that has been presented to us by Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada in his purport concludes, although the Ramayana composed by Valmiki is a huge literature, the same activities are summarized here by Shukadev Goswami in a few verses. So Srila Prabhupada gave us the essence of all Vedic literature. And the crown or the ripened fruit of all Vedic literature is here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Srimad Bhagavatam comprises of 18,000 verses, spoken by Shukadev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. And we find that in these 18,000 verses, only 2 chapters have been dedicated to the glories or the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. And the reason provided for that is contained in this particular verse, because Shukadev Goswami is saying to Parikshit Maharaj that you've heard it so many times previously, so I'm just telling you a brief synopsis of the glories of Lord Ramachandra. And if one had to consider the glories of Ramachandra as contained in the Ramayana itself, which of course Maharaj emphasized yesterday, there are so many versions of it, and even Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport that there are so many people, sometimes it's mental speculation, people give their own interpretation, they consider this to be imaginary, so many ways of interpretation. So we need to be very guarded, and in that respect we confine ourselves generally to what is contained in Srimad Bhagavatam, the 2 chapters. I, however, have been requested, and I've seen it has been advertised, that the topic for my presentation tonight is the childhood pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. And you will find that the childhood pastimes of Lord Ramachandra do not appear here in Srimad Bhagavatam, in these 2 chapters per se. And if I just had to take a step back and talk about the glories of Lord Ramachandra as contained in the Ramayana, as composed by Valmiki himself, the Ramayana comprises of 24,000 verses. And Srimad Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses, of which 2 chapters are dedicated to Lord Ramachandra. So one can assume if the entire Ramayana had to be included in the Srimad Bhagavatam, what a voluminous series of books this would have turned out to be. And in any event, Shukadev Goswami, who is the speaker of Bhagavatam, has given us the essence of what he believes is necessary for us from the Ramayana itself. The ripened fruit of knowledge is contained here. So there is really no need to delve outside of Srimad Bhagavatam. But having said that, and knowing that my topic is the childhood pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, And just stepping back a bit, if I could just talk about how I started off explaining how famous Lord Ramachandra has become, globally. We see, like for instance as well, countries such as Thailand. Thailand has their version of the Ramayana. As Prabhupada is mentioning here, there are very many versions of the Ramayana. And therefore we steer away from reading books that are not authorized by Srila Prabhupada. In Thailand, the Ramayana has been translated, is called the Ramakien. Now we also know that Ramayana has been translated in Telugu, in Tamil, in Hindi. There's so many versions of it. And we find that how the Ramayana has pervaded the entire planet, to countries such as Thailand, which doesn't have its roots necessarily deep and seeped in our Vedic culture and in our Shastras. But this story of Lord Ram has touched, the citizens of Thailand at some point in time. And this culture and these names, they do not refer to Sita as Sita there, but there's a personality where we can see the similarities is referred to as cheetah. It's got the same plot, and it is literally Lord Ram's pastimes. And Lord Ram's pastimes are all attractive as well, just like because he is an expansion of Vishnu himself. And we see that, even in places such as Indonesia. In Indonesia, there is a statue of a personality with bow and arrow in this jogging park. And a little further down that path, if you go, you see this golden deer, a statue of a golden deer. So a place like Indonesia, you see Lord Ram has been made known over there as well over a period of time. The glories of Lord Ram has obviously reached the shores of Indonesia as well. And we see that even in, there's a beach. The beach is called Pandava Beach. So this culture, this Vedic culture and the pastimes of the personality of Godhead, in this particular instance, Lord Ram, has really reached the shores of many, many countries. So, and as I mentioned earlier, Lord Krishna, even in Dwarka, it was said that he would be listening to the pastimes of Lord Ram in the evenings. And in times predating ours, or even some years ago, one would find that even in India, families would gather at sunset. They'd have an early dinner, and then what would they do? There was no television, there was no social media, there was not all these devices that the family is all busy in the evenings, all on their separate devices, watching different things. Families would gather after dinner and they would be reciting from scripture, and they will be relishing the pastimes of Krishna, they will be relishing the pastimes of Lord Ram and Lord Krishna's different incarnations. And this provided them such great inspiration in their lives. And this is the best mood and to imbibe, as well as what a wonderful way to go to bed at night. So this is the Ramayana that I have basically referred to today, and I will be speaking from, because I've been asked to speak on the childhood pastimes, and Srila Prabhupada speaks about Tad vidipani pratena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam darshina tat viniprani patena. Right, so here the version that I'm reading from today is actually a book that has a foreword, a preface by, an introduction by His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami, who's one of the sannyasis and gurus within ISKCON. And I managed to get my hands on a copy of this particular book, which obviously being prefaced by a sannyasi and guru in ISKCON, and he acknowledges at the start of the book, at the beginning of the book, in his preface, he mentions as well that, if I could just flip to this page, he says it's based, in his note he starts off, this edition of Ramayana is based on the original text by Valmiki, so it's an authorized version. So it is standard custom, like how when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So likewise, when we begin to read from Ramayana, there's a verse glorifying Valmiki, and my glasses are misting up all the time here, so therefore please excuse me for continuously adjusting my glasses. And this verse goes like this: Kunjatam Rama Rameti Maduram Maduraskaram Aruya Kavita Shakam Vande Valmiki Kokilam. The translation is, I salute sage Valmiki, the nightingale, who's actually it's literally translated as the cuckoo bird. Kokilam is the cuckoo bird, who sings in a sweet voice the sweet name of Ram, from the tree of poetry. So we see here that the speaker or the compiler of the Ramayana, Valmiki, he's compared to a cuckoo bird. That's how sweet his words are. And what is he speaking about? He's speaking about the sweetness, the sweet pastimes of Lord Ramachandra itself. The next verse, it's very bad light. Valmiki Muni Simhasya Kavita Vana Charima Sunvanam Rama Kada Vadanam Konav Yatri Patranam Gatim. Sorry, the lighting is also in this, and the text is very small for me here. So the translation of that is, who in this world will not attain salvation? Who happens to hear the story of Ram, composed by the lion among poets, Valmiki, who always lived in the forest. So there's two things in this particular glorification of Valmiki. One, he is referred to as a cuckoo bird, and on the other hand, he is referred to as a lion in the poetry itself. So this seems like contradictory. A cuckoo bird sings sweetly and a lion roars. So what it's literally saying to us, that this composition of Valmiki is both sweet in terms of the pastimes and the personality of Lord Ramachandra. And if we had to just take it on a superficial reading of the Ramayana, we will only read it in that sense, the sweetness. But the roaring of the lion, the poet, Valmiki himself, is referring to the stronger, deeper message that is there in the Ramayana. So as much as it has its sweetness, like the cuckoo bird composing and reciting these verses, but the lion is also roaring in this Ramayana with a strong message for the reader himself. Right. So it's just like with us when the Ramayana can be considered on various levels. So the first level is, one could think of, is like a story. Like Srila Prabhupada said, there's various ways people write it based on their interpretation, and they give their own, because they have a doctorate, and they will write Ramayana, etc., and give their interpretation. It could be considered imaginary, etc. So one level is that it's a story. It's a story about the ups and downs in the life of Lord Ram and this dynasty, so to speak. It contains Kaikeyi, Sumantra, Supanaka, Ravana, and this is, it has all the elements of a very exciting story. It creates a very interesting read for someone. And for the children generally, they will see this as what a wonderful story, and they see it all as just a story itself, like a novel you could read, a story, something that is fiction. So that's the first level one can see it. The second level would be the enrichment of the mind itself. So the first one starts with the hearing, as children would hear it, and the ear is getting engaged. If one had to transcend just that literal understanding of the Ramayana and progress a bit deeper, it's just like how I mentioned about the lion sending out this roar in the Ramayana itself. The second level is the enrichment. It's the life lessons for us to learn to be happy and successful in our lives from Lord Ram himself. And then the third, so that is engaging your mind in contemplating and enriching your mind. And the third level, if we have heard, we have contemplated our mind, we've looked for the deeper message in the Ramayana, we will eventually find a transformation in consciousness. And that is the enlightenment level, where we come to the point of we see what is the prescripts for how we should be living our lives itself. So once we take this Ramayana, out of its literal interpretation to the deeper meaning and apply it in our lives, and practice it, practice will bring to us this transformation, and we ought to be developing bhakti. And so therefore we started off with the hearing, with the ear, with the mind in contemplating, and with the enrichment, and eventually the enlightenment touches and transforms your heart itself. But this process needs the guidance of a guru, like is emphasized here. One cannot understand and get to that deeper level without being shared by a self-realized soul. Personally, I am not qualified to speak the glories of Lord Ramachandra. And it is only by the mercy of great personalities such as Srila Prabhupada, who we should simply repeat, and the version of the Ramayana, as with the foreword by Bhakti Vikas Swami, that if we recite, then the glories of Lord Ram will actually have an effect on us, ourselves. It is just like the comparison is given, is just like we know of the Kumbh Mela in Allahabad, where you have the Triveni, where the three rivers, the Ganga, the Jamuna, and the Saraswati, there's a convergence of these three rivers. Now the Ganga and the Jamuna are visible, but the Saraswati flows as an undercurrent. She cannot be seen as a river, the current of the Saraswati, yet we know Saraswati is there. And likewise with the Ramayana as well, we have the literal version and we have the deeper meaning to it. It's just like the Saraswati river which exists in there and which we know we need to delve into and take that mercy of this Triveni, the hidden river within the Sangam itself. So just we need to take the hidden message of the Ramayana itself. So if we go to the point of, the childhood pastimes of Lord Ram, like I said, even in the Ramayana it is said there's only 10 verses dealing with the childhood pastimes of Lord Ram. So these childhood pastimes in the Balkand section of the Ramayana actually refers to the appearance of Lord Ram, his youth, up to the point of his, the Swayamvar ceremony where he gets the hand of Sita. That is in the Balkand section, which is the Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. So I just want to start off with, the appearance of Lord Ram. Lord Dasarath, King Dasarath rather, was the emperor of the entire planet. And at that stage, the planet was so opulent, there was so much of splendor, it was all auspicious. He was such a wonderful ruler. And his citizens were all so happy. The entire kingdom, and Ayodhya was such an opulent city itself. But there was something lacking. And like all rulers of bygone eras, we find that they would want a heir to pass the kingdom over to. So the king needs to have a son to take over the reign. The kings would not rule till their last breath, but they would want to come to the point, because they were devotees and they understood their spiritual lives were so important that they would need to retire from their material duties and eventually be fixed in worship and meditation on the lotus feet of their lordships. So at some point the king would retire from his worldly duties and hand over the kingdom to the crown prince, who will take over the reign of the kingdom. But King Dasarath had no children. He didn't have any sons. So he thought of, he wanted a son and how to get a son. So he came up with the idea, and this was accepted by his advisors, who were Vashishta Muni, was his main advisor as well, Brahmana in his kingdom. And he came up with the idea of performing the yagya. The challenge, he would send out a horse. And the horse would be the challenge horse that would go all over the planet. And this horse would be accompanied by about 4,000 warriors accompanied this horse. And the horse would go into a territory, and then the ruler of that territory would be, if they wanted to challenge the rule of King Dasarath, then they would go into battle with these warriors. And if they were overthrown, then of course the reign of King Dasarath was once again reaffirmed. Now if the horse came back unchallenged, or being successful in all the challenges and having gone through all corners of the planet, and comes back and having defeated anyone who had posed a challenge to the reign of King Dasarath, then only would this yagya take place. So we found that this horse came back. Nobody, came back from the challenge itself, and then the yagya was performed. So that was the first part, that the yagya was being performed. And then I just want to turn to, then we find that Sumantra then told King Dasarath that apart from this yagya that was being performed regarding the horse, that he should engage the services of Rishya Shringa and perform a Putreshtri yagya for the begetting of a son. So that takes us to this part of the Ramayana. It says Maharaj Dasarath readily assented, after receiving this suggestion of this yagya being, the Putreshti yagya being performed. Maharaj Dasarath readily assented, and soon the sacrifice was begun. Meanwhile, in the higher planets, the chief demigods approached Lord Brahma and explained, "O grandsire, because of your benedictions, Ravana has become so powerful that he is harassing everyone at will. Even we cannot subdue the wicked Rakshasa. Therefore, we request you to personally devise the means of his destruction." Lord Brahma considered the situation and then replied, "At the time of asking for benedictions, Ravana did not bother to ask for immunity from death at the hands of human beings, for he considered them to be too insignificant." While Brahma was thinking how Ravana could be killed, Lord Vishnu suddenly appeared, riding on his carrier Garuda. As effulgent as many suns, Lord Vishnu appeared in his four-armed form, dressed in bright saffron garments and carrying his disc, conch, club and lotus flower. The demigods worshipped the Supreme Lord with great reverence and then requested, "O Master of the universe, please come to our rescue by dividing yourself into four. Become the sons of Maharaj Dasarath for the purpose of killing Ravana." Lord Vishnu replied, "Rest assured, there is no longer any need to be afraid. I will soon incarnate to rule over the earth for 11,000 years after vanquishing your enemy, the king of Rakshasas." After saying this, Lord Vishnu disappeared as the demigods looked on with wonder. So we read also in Bhagavad Gita that Lord Krishna appears whenever there is a decline in religious principles for two purposes: to vanquish the miscreants and to deliver the devotees. It's mainly to give pleasure to his devotees. So we see here as much that the desire or the wish of King Dasarath was being fulfilled, and simultaneously Lord Vishnu was going to fulfilling the wish of the demigods, who were very much troubled by the Rakshasas headed by Ravana at that time. So the appearance of Lord Ram was serving both those purposes. The devotee, we find that he was descending as Lord Ramachandra at the wish, the request of King Dasarath, and also at the request of the demigods, he was going to kill this Rakshasa, Ravana, who was troubling the earth. Now, an interesting point that is made here as well is that Ravana, when he performed austerities and he got the benediction from Lord Brahma, he thought he was going to be invincible. When he was asking for his boons, he thought human beings were too insignificant, as he stated here. So his boon was that he would not be killed by demigods, by gods or Rakshasas. Little did he think that, that humans posed a threat to him at all. So he never asked for that boon. So therefore, Lord Ramachandra appeared to be like a human being. So that is why also some people think of this pastime or this Leela, Ram Leela, as being that of an ordinary person. But he was not so. And likewise, Ravana also thought him to be an ordinary human being and never ever anticipated that Lord Ram will be his destruction itself. So we see that, if we are going to talk further, so the sacrifice happened, and then there was this, from the sacrifice itself emerged a personality who came at the end of the sacrifice, who produced a pot of sweet rice and told King Dasarath, "Give the sweet rice to your wives and they will bear 4 children." So he shared the sweet rice. And then Kaushalya, after a pregnancy of 12 months, she gave birth to a son. And that we know is going to, the anniversary of that appearance day is going to be Ram Navami, which is next week Sunday. And shortly thereafter, there was the Kaikeyi gave birth to a son. And then eventually, we find that, and the dates are given here as well, we find that there was the birth of the twins. Right, the birth of the twins occurred, so that was the, and then 13 days after the appearance of the first child, the first son born to Kaushalya, the name-giving ceremony took place. Right? So the name-giving ceremony took place. Vashishta Muni, who was the head priest in the kingdom of King Dasarath, gave the name, the firstborn, born to Queen Kaushalya, was named Ramachandra, right? He was named Ramachandra, and then we find the other 2 boys were named, the next boy born of Kaikeyi was Bharat, and then we found the last 2, the twins, were named Lakshman and Shatrughna. Now, in the childhood, it is said that Lakshman and Ram were inseparable. They were inseparable in everything that they did. And likewise, Bharat and Shatrughna were very close as well. So these brothers grew up, as wonderful children. They grew up as wonderful children in the kingdom of Dashrath, and they were obviously loved very much by the father himself. And as they grew up and they began to be educated, and we find that when they were around 12 years old or so, King Dashrath began to contemplate. These boys are growing up, and Lord Ram, and I need to soon find a suitor for him, need to get him married. And around that same time, King Dasarath received news of the arrival of Vishwamitra Muni. He had arrived at the kingdom of Ayodhya. When he arrived, King Dasarath was very pleased to receive him. And he wanted to, he began to recite some very wonderful words to to Vishwamitra. I'd just like to read from here. After worshipping Vishwamitra properly, Dasarath brought him into the court and seated him on a throne. Maharaj Dasarath greeted Vishwamitra, saying, "O foremost of saintly persons, may all your endeavors to conquer repeated birth and death meet with success. I consider your coming here as a welcome gift, as nectar placed in one's own hands, as torrential rainfall after a long drought, as the birth of a son for one who is childless, as the recovery of a great treasure that was considered irrevocably lost, or as the joy one feels on a festive occasion." So this is King Dasarath addressing Vishwamitra. And he is so pleased to receive the sage. And he teaches us, like I said, this is all life lessons for us, the Ramayana. How to receive a sage, how to receive a spiritual personality. If we cannot even offer anything, when a guest comes to your house, you always offer your guest, something, a nice place to sit, something to eat, something to drink. If you cannot offer anything, at least you must offer sweet words. So in this way, King Dasarath, apart from receiving him and worshipping and bathing the feet of Vishwamitra, he also offered such sweet words. And these words are profound because it's from his own personal experience that he's talking. He speaks about the joy he feels after the torrential rains come after a period of a drought. And this kingdom had experienced all of this. And I think significantly as well, it is on the birth of a child after not having had children, the birth of the firstborn child. How much of excitement prevails at that time. So this is how excited he was, comparing all of these things and the excitement of Vishwamitra coming to his palace. Vishwamitra actually also, there was two things that he asked King Dasarath. And he asked him, firstly, has he conquered his enemies? Now there again, there's two levels one could consider this. You're talking about your physical enemies, and you're talking about your internal. So there's the external enemies, and then there's the internal enemies. Our internal enemies are our body, our mind, our words, and it's our lust, our greed, our pride, and all of these things that are our internal enemies, right? The 6 enemies that we know from Bhagavad Gita as well. And then the external enemies. So Vishwamitra is actually asking, when he asked him whether he's conquered the enemies, he's literally also requiring us to become introspective in terms of who are our enemies. We don't only look at persons as being enemies, but we have our own internal enemies. Often you hear this phrase, this catchphrase that is spoken about, your inner demons. Western society has picked up on this, and they speak about your inner demons. So we have our own inner demons as well. Have we conquered them as yet? And then, what is he actually asking about? He's actually questioning about dharma, the constitutional duty of the living entity. And he wanted to check, the King Dasarath himself, how was the governance of him as a ruler, as a king? The ruler is actually the emperor of the entire world. And this is the model that is expected from persons. You need to be able to conquer not externally only, but also internally. That means, are you doing your duty to God and society properly? Because the king also has that responsibility. Because we see the leadership, even there's a verse in Bhagavad Gita, whatever actions a great man performs, the common man follows. So likewise, the king is meant to be that ideal personality. And if he is worshipping, and if Krishna is the center of his kingdom, naturally everything will flourish in this particular kingdom as well. So that is the duty of the ruler, to take care of the citizens, to protect the citizens, and to provide for the citizens. And that ideal kingdom can only be established if Krishna is in the center of that kingdom, if the ruler himself is godly, is God conscious himself. So we see, and then we see, from this, and these words that King Dasarath was uttering to him as well, where he was expressing his joy upon seeing Vishwamitra Muni, reminds us of the verse from Bhagavad Gita. I think I printed that verse here as well. From the verse from Bhagavad Gita, which is chapter 17, text 15. I'll just read the translation. Austerity of speech consists in speaking truthfully and beneficially, and in avoiding speech that offends. One should also recite the Vedas regularly. And the words that I used there in the translation Srila Prabhupada gives us is, he speaks about our words, satyam. We need to be truthful. Priya, meaning dear. So, sweet words, pleasurable words. The way Dasarath addressed Vishwamitra Muni, very pleasingly. He spoke truthfully. And it needs to be beneficial. And we need to practice the speech. It's like, I know we've been going through Nectar of Instruction. And we know that we've covered, the aspect of Prajalpa and how we need to be economical with our words. So likewise here, we see perfect example here in the Ramayana as well, in this conversation between Vishwamitra and King Dasarath himself. So King Dasarath, Vishwamitra was very pleased with King Dashrath. And then he goes on, however, and then King Dasarath asks him, how are you doing and how can I serve you? That was the mood that he has received the sage in. How can I serve you? And Vishwamitra Muni at that stage expressed to him that he is having, he has a problem. The problem is that whenever he is doing this yagya, which is a 6-day yagya, and during the course of this yagya, his worship, he has to, 2 conditions he has imposed on himself. Firstly, it's a monavrat. He will not speak at all during the process of this yagya for a period of 6 days. And then the second condition is that he cannot, become angry during this time. But what is happening is that his yagya is being disturbed all the time, because there's these Rakshasas that are coming. And these Rakshasas are actually, whilst he's performing this yagya, are throwing obnoxious things into it, like flesh and blood into this yagya, and therefore it's desecrating his sacrificial performance itself. And in so doing, he is unable to accomplish his and complete this yagya itself. So he asked King Dasarath, please can you, so now the Dasharath asked him, how can I serve you, what do you want? He asked him to send Ram with him. He said, please can you send your son Ram with me for 10 days? And what was King Dasarath's response? His response was, he was trembling. He said that he began to cry. He didn't want to let go of his son, because this was like any parent. And this, we're talking about having the Supreme Personality of Godhead as your son. All attractive personality. And naturally, the affection of a parent, you're asking for my son to go and kill the Rakshasas? He is not even 16 years old. That's his response. He's not even 16 years old. So what's the significance of him saying he's not even 16 years old? Because the age of 16, generally after 16, you can enter into the military at that time. You have now completed your studies. You are skilled in weaponry. You are able to go into battle. Now this is just a boy. He's not even an adult yet, and you expect this, my boy, my Ramachandra, to go and fight these Rakshasas. He's not even 16 years old. So he didn't go on to explain, he's not an adult and this and that, but he says he's not even 16 years old. That's how a father is feeling about sending his son into with the sage, Vishwamitra Muni. And he said to him, instead of taking Ram, take me, and I'll come with my army along too. Can you see this mentality somewhere else? It should be reminding you of another aspect in the Mahabharata. You know how when Krishna was lying down, and then we had Arjuna and Duryodhana came, and the battle was going to take place, the battle of Kurukshetra. And Krishna, they had approached him, and he was lying down in the bed, and one stood at his foot and one stood at his head. Right? And then Krishna first he offered Duryodhana, who he saw first. I will not fight in this battle. So both of them had come. Like how when the wars are taking place, like we see Russia and Ukraine and all, they have their allies. Even during World War, the countries have allies, and then they go into battle with not just themselves, but with the allied nations. So in this way, when Krishna was approached as well, Duryodhana thought he got lucky. He was asked first, because Krishna saw him first. I will not fight in the battle, but I'll give you a choice. You could have me without my army and without me, engaging in warfare at all. Or you could have my army. He thought, great, I got lucky, I can take his army. Krishna is just one person. But Arjuna was so happy. He took Krishna. He had Krishna, and And in accepting Krishna, because he understood Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if you have Krishna, you don't need an army. So here, we see how, because of his love and affection for his son, King Dasarath was prepared to offer himself together with his army. But we see Vishwamitra Muni didn't want Dasarath, a powerful king who was a warrior, who could, who had been in battle, who had, been victorious in battles, together with his army. No, he didn't want the king, neither his army, nor being an experienced Kshatriya and warrior, but he wanted Lord Ram, because this was the pastimes that needed to have taken place. And Lord Ram, so in this way, he sensed King Dasarath's hesitation to actually allow him to take Lord Ram. And he said to him, I only need him for 10 days. And King Dasarath, it is said that he began to faint, and he was crying, and he was lamenting, and he didn't want to send Ram. So seeing all of this, Vishwamitra, realized that King Dasarath was not going to allow Ram to go with him. At that stage, he actually uttered some words. And even then, when he was saying to Dasarath, okay, then you and your family, you can live happily together with each other. Now, if someone tells you something like that in that tone, okay, I'm leaving now. I came to ask you for something. You refused it to me. Okay, good. I'll leave now, but I wish you a very good life. In that tone, is that person actually, wishing you well? So at that stage, Vashishta Muni, he intervened because he was observing everything and he could see now what was going to happen. It was not in Dasarath's interest to refuse Vishwamitra Muni. And he realized Vishwamitra Muni is such a great sage. He knows all about all the types of weapons. He has so much of knowledge. He has so many mantras that he could very well easily himself vanquish these demons. But he was coming to ask for Ram for a reason. So at that stage, Vashishta Muni intervened and he said to King Dasarath, and he presented to him, that Vishwamitra Muni, it's like when you're a child. If you have a child, and remember that first day that your child is going to school, primary school, you think it's the first day your child is stepping away from you, one step further away from you. Later, when your child is going to university, it's even more, the distance between you and your child is becoming greater now. And then when your child is going to get married and go away, it's going to be even greater. So that that separation is going to take place. So Vashishta Muni pointed out to King Dasarath that we cannot stand in the way of the advancement, the future, the opportunities that are being presented to Lord Ram. Because this is a wonderful opportunity for Lord Ram. Despite the fact that he was still a young boy, he was going to get an opportunity that would not normally be given to him. And that would have been receive benedictions from Vishwamitra Muni in the form of weaponry, in the form of mantras, etc. And in that way, and Vashishta Muni assured King Dasarath that Vishwamitra Muni could vanquish these demons himself, but your son has more to benefit from this. And he's going to be safe with Vishwamitra Muni. So in that way, very hesitatingly, Dasarath agreed. So he called for Ram, this young boy Ram. Ram came to his father. And what did he say to Ram? He says, Ram, I need you to go with Vishwamitra Muni. And what did Ram respond? What was his response? Did he object, like children would normally do in that age group right now? Why must I go? What are you going to give me if I go? It's like you've got to negotiate now if you want something to be done. No, Ram was the ideal child. So in his pastimes, entire Ram Leela we see, and even Maharaj mentioned yesterday, Ek Patni, one wife. He was the ideal son, he was the ideal king, he was the ideal husband. So here we see him as the ideal son as well. He never questioned his father, why should I go? he was ready to go with no questions asked. And Dasarath said Lakshman should go with him too. So Vishwamitra got like a bonus. He asked for one, he got two. Because they were inseparable. And Lakshman went along with Ram. Right? And there's so much more to be said, but I see we just have 5 minutes left. And I'm going to just speak about how when they traveled for the next 12 miles along the Ganga. Such a sweet pastime. And here was, all the citizens were really sad as well. But Ram was going along with Vishwamitra Muni. And then after walking for 12 miles along the Ganga, they came to a point, Vishwamitra Muni realized that Ram was actually tired. Remember, this was a young boy walking, walking for a period of 12 miles. Not something that he would ordinarily do. And he was now tired. And then Vishwamitra Muni told him, go and take bath, freshen yourself up in the river. And when he came back, he gave him 2 mantras. See, already was benedicting him. These 2 mantras, it is said, was for the purpose that once Ram chanted this, it would give him, he would always feel energetic. He would never feel fatigue or tiredness. He would be powerful strength. He would have good health. He would not be, in this way, he would never experience tiredness at all. And he would have, I've already said, he would have good health. He'd be powerful. And he gave this mantras to Ram. And in turn, Ram gave it to Lakshman. So there's also a reason why Vishwamitra Muni didn't give it to both of them at the same time. Because it is said that Ram would not have, Lakshman would not have accepted it if Vishwamitra Muni was going to give it to him. Because he considered himself to be the servant of Ram, as much as he was his brother. And so Ram took the role of being his guru as well. And he shared the mantras with Lakshman. That is another example of sharing. Another theme we can take away from this pastime as well. About how Ram was that personality who would share. And we've learned from Srila Prabhupada as well. Whatever we receive, we share it. So, and in sharing, you get more. So even the knowledge that he got from these mantras and these benedictions he got, he shared them. And by sharing, you get more. And Srila Prabhupada in this mood has given us this Krishna consciousness movement, has given us these books, and he's given us this knowledge, and he's given us this process of Krishna consciousness. And all we need to do is adopt this mood of Ram, adopt this mood of sharing, and have faith in the fact that we will be protected, and in faith in this process of Krishna consciousness. So there's so much more to be said, about how Ram eventually, Tataka, how he killed her, and he initially didn't want to kill a woman, but this Rakshasi was, he needed to kill her. Initially, he only wanted her on their journey and the purposes, and now eventually he defeated and he got rid of Marichi. But there's so much more. That is why he said that there's 24,000 verses in the Ramayana. And we have 1 hour just to talk about Lord Ram's childhood pastime. So on this note, I will come to an end right now. Our hour is up. And I'm hoping that the speakers over the next few days will take you further with hearing the glories of Lord Ram and bring us to the point that we will eventually invite Lord Ram into our lives when he appears on Ram Navami next Sunday. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.